Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Garrison Institute Forum. I'm Stephen Posner with the Pathways to Planetary Health Initiative at the Garrison Institute. Today, we will explore ecological civilization through an intergenerational dialogue about youth, eldership, and the continuity of wisdom. Thank you to the Garrison Institute and the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology for co-sponsoring this session, and to you all for being here today. Before we begin, I'd like to review just a few logistical items. We are on a Zoom webinar, so participant audio and video will remain off. All questions and comments can go into the Q&A box below. We will read whatever you write there, and we'll get to as many questions as we can throughout today's conversation, but don't wait until the very end to enter your comments and questions. Feel free to use the Q&A box at any time. We are recording these sessions, and you will have a chance to view recordings as well as a schedule of upcoming programs at garrisoninstitute.org. This online session is part of a global speaker series on ecological civilization, which has been exploring topics like what is ecological civilization? Why is it important now, today? How is it being understood in China, and how is it shaping pathways toward shared planetary flourishing? This series brings cultural traditions into creative presence with one another, recognizing that the transformation we seek globally must also take root in how we learn and live together. Today, I'd like to mention that as the world looks to the upcoming global climate meeting, COP30, with many on their way there or already in Brazil, these conversations remind us that education, ethics, and ecological imagination and envisioning can actually be forms of climate action. I'm especially looking forward to this session because I've always loved intergenerational exchange. This sort of education is a key pathway for planetary health, in my view. And I've been fascinated for a long time, not just by how people learn facts, but how we learn insight, empathy, compassion, and perspective. Recently, I've been collaborating with an organization called Olnuweg, which serves First Nations communities nearby where I live. And the youth in their programs design science kits for growing plants on the International Space Station, and they also fulfill cultural stories of a time when eagle feathers fly with the stars. This integration of science and technology and deep meaning points towards the kind of synthesis I feel we need today. Even amidst our immense scientific and technological knowledge, we depend still on wisdom, on knowing how to choose well. And I hear so many colleagues around the world asking, how do we find a shared purpose amidst overwhelming data and technological capacities like AI? So I believe education can cultivate the new mindsets to navigate modern complexity with creativity and ethics and care. And tonight's conversation, weaving youth and elders, East and West, modern and ancient, is part of this work. So thank you again for being here, and it is now my pleasure to introduce our esteemed guests for the conversation tonight. Mary Evelyn Tucker, PhD, is co-director of the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology and an expert on cultural and religious values for broadened environmental ethics. Peter Senge, senior lecturer in leadership and sustainability at MIT and co-founder of the Center for Systems Awareness and pioneer in systems thinking and organizational learning. Professor Wang, research professor at Peking University, founder of Climate Future Global Innovation Lab, and scholar practitioner advancing China's carbon neutrality and climate communication. And Hazim, UN Indigenous Fellow from China, bridging Miao traditional wisdom with global sustainability on global platforms, for example, through Vision 2061 and dialogues at global climate meetings. Welcome all to the show, and I am honored to have you here and to welcome Mary Evelyn to help open tonight's dialogue. Thank you. And you're muted, Mary Evelyn, I think.
Thank you so much, Stephen. It's such a pleasure to be with you and certainly Professor Senge and our very esteemed colleagues, Binbin Wang and Hazim. This is a very special moment, I think, to bring together intergenerational learning and concerns for what we like to say at Yale to our students, an intergenerational handshake, something that's mutually empowering. And for whatever reason, students seem to love it. I'm going to begin, as I think Binbin will as well, with sort of a personal story of intergenerational learning, because that's what situates us, I think, at this present moment. My grandfather, Carlton Hayes, was a professor of European history at Columbia, where he went to his undergraduate studies and his PhD studies. And I did my PhD there as well with a student of his. So I want to begin with this intergenerational learning at Columbia, where the European history developed after World War I with classes in Western civilization to try and prevent further conflict in Europe. Now, when his student, Ted DeBerry, went to the Army and Navy Language School and was in the Pacific War and World War II, he came back to Columbia and set up parallel classes in East Asian classics and texts so that we would learn about this huge part of the world. So Columbia is known for its classes responding to these urgent situations of our time of peace and cultural understanding in particular. And he set up DeBerry, a whole series of translations because we didn't have enough in English of translations of which we as graduate students all participated in making translations, myself from Japanese Neo-Confucianism. But the important thing here too is that Ted DeBerry joined with Thomas Berry, who was a remarkable scholar, very interested also in China and in the Confucian tradition. The two of them met on a boat coming from San Francisco, where DeBerry was the first Fulbright scholar after the war, and Thomas Berry was a priest, and he was being sent by his order to study the language and culture of China. And as I said, both of them became deeply interested in Confucianism and set up, when they returned, the first seminar at Columbia. It was called Oriental Thought and Religion, now Neo-Confucian Thought and Religion, and there's many, many others. But Berry went on to write a book on Buddhism. He wrote a book on religions of India and many articles on Confucianism as well, in collaboration with Ted DeBerry. Now, the intergenerational thing continues because Thomas Berry was also a great admirer of my grandfather through history, and Berry was a cultural historian primarily, not a theologian. So he saw through the lens of history how we needed to navigate our way forward. And he became our teacher, John Grimm, my husband, and myself, at Fordham when he set up the first and only history of religions program in that extensiveness in almost any university in the country, but certainly in any Catholic university. It was very, very dynamic. It was all about the spiritual dimensions of these traditions. We had many gatherings at Riverdale in his center where he had 10,000 books, and he helped John to study the indigenous peoples and especially Native American traditions. So and he married us, and of course we were so privileged to work with him for 35 years with his books and so on. And he taught some of the very first courses in Native American traditions in 1975, and some of the early courses in Asian religions as well. So this intergenerational learning from our teachers, we're very, very conscious of what we are passing on in the classes we've been doing for 40 years of teaching because of their extensive understanding of text and tradition, but mostly the spiritual dimensions for our time, which is what we eventually did with the ecological implications of the world's religions, saying we need a moral force for that. So the intergenerational handshake certainly continues. At Yale, we've done 30 interviews with our graduate students of people who've gone through these programs on religion and ecology at Yale, telling their story, which is very inspiring, of what they're doing now in education or in ministry or in NGO work, environmental work, and so on. And I think I'll bring it over to meeting Binbin and mentioning something then that we're working on together. So it was about 2 years ago when Binbin Wang was a World Fellow at Yale, which is a marvelous position of bringing about 20, 25 very high level committed scholars and activists from all over the world. And she came up to my office several times while she was here, and we realized that her studies of climate and so on, that we needed this cultural dimension, we needed this ethical and spiritual dimension. And I'd have to say on a very personal level how deeply meaningful and moving it was to meet Binbin because of my love of China, my love of this area of ecological civilization with all of its problems and promise. But there were several times we were so ignited by the friendship that was built there. We were weeping over the books and things that we were looking at. So a very, very special friendship began at that time. And of course, this summer when we were able to meet Hazim, he will tell his own story. And I'll just conclude by saying out of this friendship has come a project that we're working on, which she will say something more about, that will be published in Environment magazine in February. And if it's an offering to the COP to say that we have the science, we have the policy and law and economics and technology, but we don't have the moral, spiritual, ethical force for change. We just did a large webinar this morning on that same theme in relation to the COP with Corinna Gore, who's chairing this effort to, on each continent, there's people speaking about this need for the ethical, cultural, religious input into the climate debates. So again, I'll just say very briefly, and Binbin will say something more about it, but we are trying to offer civilizational-based solutions, which some people might want to call cultural, but it's using the word civilization is to say this is systemic, it's inclusive of institutions, political, social, material, spiritual, and ecological. And that combination is the definition in China of ecological civilization, which is a commitment in the Constitution of China from 2018 toward building and realizing this integrated ecological civilization. So yeah, it's a paradigm shift in all kinds of ways of seeing the Earth as just a resource to seeing it as a dynamic, living Earth community and so on, which Binbin will say something more about. And in relation to that, we have launched a Living Earth Community website, which is trying to highlight the deep intelligences of nature, the connection of trees and roots and fungi, the song of birds, the communication of whales, of marine mammals, and so on. So it's a huge homage to the deep intelligences of nature, the ecological worldviews that are arising from pantheism to animism to deep ecology to religious naturalism. And the third part is for earth law or rights of nature, which we're having our first webinar and seminar on at Yale this coming week. So let me stop here and let me turn this over to Binbin, friend, colleague, intergenerational collaborator, and an astonishingly bright, brilliant, committed Chinese woman on these issues. So Binbin, over to you.
Okay, so thank you, Mary. You made my tears out at the very beginning. And thank you to, help me to remember the beautiful moment in Yale. And yes, it's intergenerational learning. And I think I'm in the middle. And this is why it's a good idea that I open the panel especially with my personal story. And thank you so much, Stephen, Garrison, our colleagues, to host this special, platform. And especially right before COP30, everyone talk about energy, talk about climate finance. But here we talk about people, we talk about the relationship with nature and our civilization, this kind of paradigm shift. And Mary, when you mention Thomas Berry and Dee Berry, and I really feel they are here with us. And yeah, so I think at this moment, we are all bridge. And I'd like to share my 3 moments as which helped me to understand I'm also a bridge, 3 bridges. So the first one is my climate work is started in 2009, Copenhagen. But before that, I want to see how climate impact China. So I visited Gansu and I met an old farmer there. And he showed me in Gansu province, it's in the north of China. And he said, now because of climate change, it's 10 droughts in 10 years. So we cannot survive because we rely on the heaven, the weather, and now it changed so a lot. And I feel this kind of like real impact, climate impact in Chinese people. And it gave me a lot of energy to go to Copenhagen and talk with the international community to discuss how we can, solve this kind of problem, address climate change. But there in Copenhagen, I witnessed how China tried to contribute, but because of a different mindset at that moment and also less experience on international negotiation, finally there are a lot of misunderstanding on China's role. So when I came back, at that moment, I think I should be a bridge to link the real suffering to the the international platform, and also to try to transfer the misunderstanding to understanding. And then this is I think the first bridge moment. The second bridge is in Antarctica. Actually, I witnessed it's like a pathway from Copenhagen to Paris. I witnessed the Paris Agreement, and I think it's the most beautiful moment of all human being. And then I accompany like Minister Xie Zhenhua, China's first climate envoy, to Vietnam to see what the local people there, they need, and thus China's donation to the global south can make more sense. And it's in Vietnam, Minister Xie told me, addressing climate change is not just your work, just a job, it's our common cause. At that moment, I work for international NGO and he is for government. But at that moment, I found, like we are working for the same mission. And then I got a chance to Antarctica with the female scientists from around the world, and also Christina Figueras, the former executive secretary of UNFCCC. And we witnessed the glacier collapse, just in front of us with a great sound. And at that moment, it made my heart feel hurt. And I really think it's a kind of warning from our Earth Mother. And also, Christiana Figueras invited me to introduce my personal journey. And I highlighted what I experienced in Copenhagen, the misunderstanding between the West and the East. And I said, I feel powerless. I don't know how to help. And Christiana said, what she witnessed is that China really want to contribute, and she tried to endorse and encourage me. I should continue to play as a bridge, and it's a right way. So at that moment, I think, yes, I just need to continue to be a bridge between the West and East. So this is my second bridge. And also, as Mary mentioned, 2 years ago, I was in Yale, and I got a chance to Mary's office. And I also introduced my story and also the question in my mind. Because when we talk about climate change, we usually blame fossil fuel, but fossil fuel is also from plant and animal. It's their fossil, so it's also from nature. And renewable energy is also from nature. So why, if they all from nature, why fossil fuel is black and dirty and renewable energy is gray and clean? I need an answer. And we discuss a lot, and we found it's not just about energy transition. Actually, it's about humans' mindset. It's about how to keep the relationship with nature in the hug of nature, or just try to control and look nature as a set. So at that moment, I feel, wow, something here, a shift. And I still remember when we talked, there are always tears out, and we talk about civilization. And I think Mary helped me to go deeper, really on beyond climate change, but to, as a human being on this planet, how to deal with the relationship with yourself, with other people, and with the nature mother. So when I say goodbye to Mary, and suddenly, she just stopped and turned back. And, Mary's sound is like very, very solid and strong. And at that moment, it's a wrong night. And Mary said, "Hey, this is your destiny." I said, "Oh, what?" That's kind of a clap of thunder. And I said, "Oh, yes, because I think she opened a new window for me." So when I came back to China, I continued to think about it. And Mary also invited me to Nishan Forum in Confucius' hometown, Qufu. And because she said, "Oh, you may find answers there, because there are all the philosophers around the world, they will gather there and they will talk about how to address like modern challenge, because they have a sub-forum." So we were there, and we found all the philosophers, they talk about a very complicated, test. Aristotle, Confucius on their book, like how to understand this word, how to understand the test. And I said, "I'm here to find answers, but I cannot find the linkage. Please tell me." So I just I feel a bit frustrated, because I think at that moment the philosophers, they cannot give me the bridge. And I also communicate with Mary. Oh, I didn't find answers, but also suddenly I realized they are philosophers. Their understanding on the world is at their in their field. And if I want to know the answer, and I know what happened in China, and also because I work on climate, I know what happened around the world. And maybe I can help to dig out the real cases and help to build up the bridge, and to continue the discussion, the dialogue with the philosopher, and try to find the simple language and help more people to understand. So I think this is also what we are doing now. Try to write articles and open the door to more people. And so this is the second bridge. And here I also would like to show my deep appreciation to Mary. We are great friends, and we are colleagues, but in my deep heart, Mary also show a new kind of mentorship, and how to, not a kind of, yes, just pass a baton to you. I feel like we are co-creation and co-create something very equally. So this kind of feeling really empower me a lot. So thank you, Mary. And the third bridge is about Hazim. Hazim is my student in Tsinghua University, and I think Hazim can share more. But we just back from Geneva, and there Hazim on behalf of the Miao group ethnic group and announce a new program. And that program is also based on that program. We open a global dialogue on ancient wisdom for modern challenge. The topic is from Nishan Forum. This idea is I learned from the philosopher, but we try to show Hazim's hometown's case, as a practice, and also invite the friends from around the world to talk about it, to think, besides, mitigation, climate finance, what else? And also when we talk about SDG, climate change is not the only one. We also have biodiversity and other SDGs. So they connect with each other. They are not silos. And ancient wisdom really can contribute to this kind of modern challenge. And I also use what I learned from Mary when I stay with Hazim, because I saw a reflection of my younger self in Hazim, and that same burning desire, to build a bridge and to create a path for one's community to earn understanding through action. So also inspired by this, this is why we open the global dialogue. So if you ask me, how can we do this? And I think my answer woven from these three bridge, like how do you find your mission? I think it started from responding to a real pain point, as I did from Gansu to Copenhagen. And how do we grasp the civilization-based solution? I think it's engaging deep transdisciplinary dialogue, because I'm from climate and Mary's background is religion, ecology. We are in different field, but we are brave to shake hand and exchange. And this is why now we have the new idea and to re-examine humanity's contract with nature. And also, how do we contact and build a legacy? I think is build concrete bridges and have the courage to co-create as I'm learning and also share with Hazim. And the three of us, I think, forms a beautiful circle. I build a bridge for myself to the world, and Mary built a bridge from the philosophy to me, also from the wisdom. And now Hazim and I are building a bridge to ancient wisdom and the future generation together. So, and last but not least, I want to highlight Mr. Peter Singer, and because his work, The Fifth Discipline, is a very important book for me. At the very beginning, when I read the book, Systems Thinking and the Learning Organization, I cannot understand it. But it's much, I was attracted by the book because I think compared with a lot of books, the topic like system thinking, learning organization is very easy for me to remember. So I have strong interest, read more, read once again, and finally I said, wow, even now I always, post the book with me and reread. And I also met Peter's colleague, Otto, in Bali last year and joined his workshop on U theory. And I think you guys are so great to translate the difficult, very complicated theory to such a kind of practical methodology and help people to understand how to contribute their own sense to such a big world and to address the challenge. So I think that's all. I should stop here. Otherwise, I will occupy all the time.
And Binbin, when do you want to show the film?
How about now? Yeah, that's the trailer we use in Geneva when we open the global dialogue. And this trailer, is a CGTN help us to shoot in China. Just we spent the previous months to collect the cases to show the ancient wisdom still makes strong sense to the modern challenge. Yeah, Stephen, if you can please. There are some
The
background.
sound.
Yeah.
Stephen, can you get the sound?
Sorry, was the sound not coming through?
Oh, no.
Okay, let me just start it over. It's only a minute and a half video.
Yeah, perfect.
Let's try now. Good.
In every crisis, there is opportunity. What if global warming isn't just a challenge? What if it's a call to look back to our roots? In China, we see oysters holding firm beneath an ancient bridge, helping it stand strong for 1,000 years. We hear the voices of the Bulan and Dai peoples, who remind us of another way of seeing nature, one often forgotten in our modern industrial rhythm. We walk alongside the Miao, who weave tradition into fashion. With needle and thread, they stitch a new code for sustainable development. Across China, we visit heritage sites and living traditions, exploring how ancient wisdom can guide us toward a more sustainable future. And you? What answers do your traditions hold for today's climate crisis?
Thank you, Binbin. And it's great that CCTV has made this commitment and made this film for this project. So thank you so much. Hazim, are you ready? Great.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, thank you so much again. And just as Stephen, Mary, and Binbin goes, it's just such a pleasure for me, and I'm really grateful again to join our conversation today after our discussion back in April in Beijing. Just a quick brief introduction again for myself. I'm Zongxu Hazim, and I'm an ethnic Miao youth from Guizhou, southwestern China. And I'm also a co-founder of the Vision 2061, which is an initiative dedicated to advancing localization in development, which also we're aiming at grounding the global goals in local cultures and elevating the local wisdom to serve the global good. So I'm really inspired again by what Mary and Professor Binbin what you have shared over back from your stories, and from my part, I would also love to go with my story, my own childhood in my hometown Chendongnan, where all the story where it all started. So I grew up watching my grandmother and all the village women and the embroiderers, and since my childhood, I've been witnessing that they sit for hours turning the patterns of mountains and rivers and birds into cloth. What inspires me at the very beginning is that my grandmother shared with me a sentence. She said, like, "We are stitching the world we live in." So back then, I didn't fully get it when I was a child, but I just thought it. What I was thinking is I just thought it was a pretty craft. But as I got older, and especially back to 2022, when I first participated in COP27 under the support and supervision of Professor Binbin, I feel like that is those kind of culture carries more than beauty. They also carry our traditional wisdom, because this also helped me realize when my grandmother told me the mountains and the rivers are hosts, humans are guests. We don't take more than we need. So this is the Miao ecological philosophy, and it passes down not the because we don't have characters, but in the so we put all our culture, we carry all the cultures in the rhythm of our embroidery and our old songs. So for young people like me, when we are in the village learning the craft today, they are not just picking up a skill. So we are also absorbing the respect for nature. So this is what I want to highlight, that as a young people, as next generation, it's our responsibility not to forget. So this is also what we have launched last week at the social forum in Geneva, UNOG, where we also launched the Global Village Tea. So it all starts from a project which is called the Guizhou Village Tea. So tea represents for tradition and trend, where we establish a platform for all the people from different ethnic groups, not only from China, but from all over the world. So till now, it has been launched for 1 year, and we have successfully invited people from more than 40 countries to come over to my hometown to come to the mountains, which I'm always very proud of to share with my friends and colleagues. And so this project, Village Tea, is where I saw it happen firsthand towards today's topic, because I remember when we first invite those young designers from the city, big cities, I would call it big cities comparing to the mountains, to collaborate with the village artisans. So at first, there was a gap. The young designers know the modern trends, but didn't understand the cultural and ecological meaning behind the patterns. Meanwhile, the elders in the mountains, they knew the craft, but didn't know how to share it with the world. So we created this platform where they can learn from each other cross-generationally. So, for example, the elders taught about nature's balance, and the young people, for us, we taught the digital marketing and social media how to for them how to get access to the world. So, for example, last year when we started the Village Tea, 20-year-old young girl from my village, she was a bit shy, but we bring her first time to COP29 in Baku, and she was there to share her understandings about the embroidery and how she can serve as the bridge, as just as Professor Binbin has mentioned. We all think about how we can serve as the bridge in different perspectives. And the girl, she told me, she said, like, seeing the patterns, like seeing our traditional Miao patterns on a global stage made her realize that our culture's wisdom matches for the planet. So that is the power, and gives me a lot of energy of making such a kind of practice. Because when young people aren't just talk about they aren't just talking about the ecological responsibility, but really make something realistic happen. They are living it, sharing it, and owning it. So back to my hometown, we also have some other practices, which, for example, we also launched launched different training programs in schools and different communities, and we organize our volunteers trips to ecological projects, or and even we let the young people to learn the cross cultural and ecological initiatives. So that's why we launched the Vision 2061, and this is also thanks to the platform that the United Nations offering to us as Indigenous Fellows, and as Indigenous Fellows, we launch it together. So this is not my starting point is a small village back to my hometown, but everybody just gathering together with their own culture. So which is what I'm always very proud of too, because we all starting from our different hometown, but we gather together and we co-create this platform for also for all next generations to we're aiming at Vision 2061. So it's also a future for us. And also, I think my own journey of balancing the traditional roots and global perspectives also makes me feel very encouraged, because back to the campus at Tsinghua and Oxford, I study water resources management and international relations. But some of my most profound learning happened sitting on my grandmother's porch, which is learning to embroider, because for not only for us, embroidery is contemplative, because you really have to slow down, focus, and be present with each stitch, and it is a very straightforward way, because it can teaches you to respect the process, not just the result. And I think it's super important for us to towards the topic we're talking about today, because no matter about the Vision 2061 or about the Guizhou village teas, we are not just bridging, serving as a bridge, but also we really create a platform for them, not just learning from each other, but also they can do something on their own, and they will have their ownership for what we are doing. So this is why I'm also very grateful again for having me here, and the last thing I would love to highlight is just last week at the UN Social Forum, we took a big step. We co-launched the Global Village Tea Initiative with our UN partners. But back and it all the I would say all the outcomes we have witnessed it go viral in the internet. Right now, over 300 medias, domestically and internationally, they have reported our outcomes. But only Professor Binbin and we understand how many challenges we faced up last week. The first challenge is we unfortunately we could not bring all the embroidery women to come over to Geneva because of logistics. And at the last moment, Professor Binbin just served as the bridge to carry all there's an embroidery work specifically made by the embroidery women, including my grandmother. They co-created together to send their best wishes to all the other Indigenous Fellows at the United Nations, but unfortunately they could not make their way to fly to Geneva. So they sent it to Beijing, take the last flight to Beijing, and then passed it to Professor Binbin, and Professor Binbin carried it personally to Geneva. So so finally we made it to send our wishes to and also our signal to our international partners and friends, also to make it a showcase about our determination of our to share our best wishes, but also would love to embrace all the the global perspectives to come over to my hometown, and then we can do exchanges. So what I want to share again among all of these examples is that we are developing the eco-friendly products and platforms, and not only hosting the cross-border workshops like today, but also we have been what's amazing is the changing we are seeing. For example, back to my hometown again, the village women who once only embroidered for their families are now entrepreneurs themselves and cultural ambassadors for themselves. So this is what the UN Geneva, back to my like I've been also discussing a lot with my colleagues there, and they are very willing to welcome all like more and more cases like us in the international stages, because this is what for those people who are living with their traditional wisdoms, they really needs to find a sustainable way for them to embrace the future. So we are now serving as the channel of bringing this traditional wisdoms again back to the front, and so with the global village tea again, the newest initiative we have launched, we would love to showcase that the future is we are more confident with your support and supervision. The future will definitely be more connected, more inclusive, and more rooted in the wisdom that has sustained communities like mine for centuries. And I'll just stop here again. I'll just stop here, and thank you so much again.
Thank you so much. That was just beautiful. I know Stephen is going to continue the moderating, but I just wanted to thank you, Hazim. Just beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I feel moved. And Peter, I'd love to invite you to carry on with these themes of reimagining learning, compassionate learning systems, what this looks like in practice and whatever's coming up for you as you're listening to what we're hearing.
First, it's a great experience for me to get to listen to everybody. Of course, Mary Evelyn and I have been doing these sessions, Stephen, with you for several cycles. We've had a few different people from China join us. But I have to find a way to kind of wend my way through all the memories evoked by Hashim and Binbin's comments. You might not know Binbin, but Professor He and I became good friends. He was, of course, the president of Tsinghua, and he was the representative from China, and key representative at many of the important COP gatherings, and a pain that we all felt, and you referred to it, Mary Evelyn, was that, in a word, simple thing I would say, the world's not ready to work together. It's kind of that simple. I mean, I always remember back in, I think it was 2010, it was a long time ago. I believe it was the COP in Cancun. And the months before, I was in China, but about 2 months before that gathering, which, if I can recall, was in about maybe a little later in late November. But in September at the big party, I think 10-year planning session, they announced a series of dramatic goals for decarbonizing the Chinese economy. And it was beginning the first serious steps of putting China on a path to carbon neutrality. And obviously, huge challenge. Nobody thought, well, it's all going to happen. It's not like just because you announce the goals that magic happens. But that notwithstanding, it was a very significant commitment. And I thought going into that COP meeting, this will be big news. The world can say, look at China, America, China, we're the two biggest problems for climate change in the world. And now China has really stepped forward to make a real major commitment. Nothing was said about it. You may or may not recall, but all the talk, particularly from the American delegation, was that China was unwilling to accept verifiable emissions targets. So it totally got focused on this fear, which I have to say is, I believe, a lot of what's going on here, a profound fear in the West and in the US in particular of China. So that even in a moment when you could say, here was a real unique opportunity for us to say, okay, great, how can we help one another? In the end, this is our problem. This is not China's problem. It's not America's problem. It's the world's problem. We all know that. It's, in a way, a unique moment in human history that human beings can all look up and go, oh, we have one common problem here. We have a lot of common problems. But we have one that's staring us in the face. And the science is actually not too complicated. So it's not like we have a big debate. Obviously, people can make whatever they make out of their own personal views. But as one MIT professor commented not too long ago, there's probably more consensus in the scientific community on climate change than there is on gravity. So it's not like there's a big debate here. And so the opportunity there, as I say, that was one of the things that was really evoked for me, this kind of sadness at seeing the opportunity to really work together, acknowledging all the challenges and not in any way being romantic or Pollyannish about it. Obviously, China has huge challenges around climate change, but the willingness to make those commitments, and then you might think, wouldn't that have been a perfect moment to say, how can we help? No, this is not going to be easy. How can we help? So I believe that the world has not been ready to make those sort of simple gestures of common, common concern, and you might say some minimal standard of commonality, to just simply say, how can we help? As opposed to you don't, and you don't, and you don't. So for some time now, I've felt that probably there will be no path forward without real leadership across generations, particularly from the youth. Around the world, young people see that the world, we really are in a collapse mode. That's the simplest way to express the current reality. This is a period of ecological and social collapse, and young people can see that. They have the least connection to the past and the most commitment to the future, just naturally. They have their whole lives in front of them. And of course, it's not surprising that depression, anxiety, suicide rates amongst young people is today a global epidemic. Because to be able to look into the future and see what seems to many young people as no future is not the condition you want to grow up in. Anyone wants anyone to grow up in. So I do believe that it's absolutely critical. There's a few basic reasons it's critical that there be real voice of youth in youth leadership. One, the time horizon. Climate change is the problem of the 21st century. It's not the problem of this decade. It's not the problem of the next decade. If we make remarkable progress in the next 2 or 3 decades, then we can look at the second half of the 21st century as a time of maybe beginning to draw down the level of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, because that's the blanket, that's the cause of climate destabilization, is the concentration of greenhouse gases, not emissions. We're nowhere near starting to draw that down. So this is the problem of the 21st century, which means very obviously that the leadership for this problem, many of the most important leaders haven't been born yet. And those between the ages of 5 or 6 and 30 are really critical, because over the next 30 or 40 or 50 years, they will have a huge impact. One of the things that got really frustrating for me was going to all these sustainability, World Business Council for Sustainable Development, all these big kind of global gatherings, and never seeing young people. Seriously, never, ever seeing young people. So it's a type of exclusion that I think we're completely blind to. And that's why when we picked the theme of intergenerational collaboration for this session, it is really an important one. This blind spot that we do not recognize the importance of the voice of youth, and we really don't have elders anymore. I mean, we have old people. In our modern society, we have old people. We don't have elders. So we've kind of cut off the age spectrum at both ends. The elders in all traditional cultures are critical to remind you of where you've come from, give you a sense of time and perspective. That's a really big problem. We have faced some problems like that before, and to keep you grounded in the fact that whatever's going on right now is not all that you need to be aware of. And of course, the young people are critical for their energy, their passion, their disregard for the past, and they're just natural enthusiasm, which you can feel. As you listen to you, Hazim, speak, you can just feel that energy. Things are way too desperate to be dismal, right? We can't afford being dismal. We can't afford the negativism. We have a lot of adults trying to solve this problem who deep down are profoundly negative. They cover it up with whatever sort of facade they want to, choose for the moment to look intelligent or serious or we can do this, but they don't feel that. Young people naturally feel that. So without that energy and that willingness to consider radical changes, we cannot possibly make the progress we need. So I think that once we're willing to hear the voices of the elders and recognize that there really are still elders, and particularly once we're willing to stop and listen and really create space of profound respect and mutuality with young people, we will continue to be stuck. We are stuck. No matter how you look at it, no matter how much we smile and pretend we have all this smart technical understanding and all these wonderful technologies coming from around, we're just stuck. And everybody can see that. And as a result of being stuck, life moves. And when you get stuck, things collapse because you're not moving with life. That's kind of first principle. The I Ching, right? First, hexagram is change. Nothing doesn't change. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And when you're stuck, you're operating contrary to life. So that's kind of our predicament now. And I think that there's no way out without really starting to recognize that we have to kind of start listening across this age spectrum. So I'm so happy to have you, Binbin, and you, Hazim, here. Obviously, as you said, Binbin, you're kind of in the middle. I understand. But it's wonderful to have the two of you, to be able to bring a student. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen really stuck meetings become unstuck when young people can speak and we pay attention and listen really respectfully.
I love that. I'm just jumping in again, turning it then back to Stephen, but I love it so much because I think the great blessing of teaching is being in dialogue with the next generation and with their indomitable creativity. And I think the releasing creativity, especially in the next generation, is a way forward. And there's no question that creativity is there and ready to be put to use. So let's open the doors and the windows too. So thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you. And it is here tonight and this morning, depending on where we are on the planet. So I invite Hazim and Binbin, please feel free to chime in here. I'll just start with one question that's building off of what I've been hearing. And to be a steward of stuck feels like an okay thing right now. And as we consider the movement to be able to meet this challenge of the 21st century, as you framed it, Peter, of climate change, not everybody sees it this way, right? And what Binbin mentioned about how a job and work can be transformed into a common cause, right? It's more than just job or a work. It can be a common cause. And what it takes to move in that direction is, again, Binbin, it is about more than energy transitions. It's about human mindsets. So I'd love to ask all of you, what sort of mindsets are needed to meet this moment, to help the stuck sort of eddy in the stream be released and flow forward? I heard about relational presence. I love that, Hazim. We are stitching the world we live in. Beautiful, beautiful expression of relational presence. Eldership as a mindset and a presence as opposed to old people. What other kinds of mindsets are needed in the world today?
May I?
Yeah.
In the middle, start again. And so first, Peter, I worked with, when I was in Tsinghua, I worked closely with Professor He, and he mentioned a lot, the friendship between you and him, and also your work in Tsinghua. And also he introduced your book to us. So it's a very good friendship, I think. And also, again, thank you so much for your great thinking. And also from your book, Systemic Thinking. Now, I think this is a mindset, also still the mindset we need. Because now we use the geopolitical environment now, a situation now is like just through finger and blame each other. But if we really realize that now when we, for example, climate change is my field. When we talk about climate crisis, if we realize that only energy replacement is useless, it's because our heart, it's because human ask too much from the nature, and in a wrong way, not a correct way. And we think nature is our resources, and we just like try to grab everything and build up our empire. And in this kind of mindset, we may disappear from this planet as a dinosaur, right? We're only one of the species. And so I think this is the point. And China, just now you mentioned, China now really show very strong commitment to reach carbon neutrality. And China's renewable energy investment is #1 in the world. And it has show a kind of leadership in global climate governance. And I think the point is, then some countries will say, oh, yes, you are a big emitter, you should do that. And, oh, yeah, you should give me more money, or yes, you should reduce coal as soon as possible. I think it's a kind of if we change the mindset as count me in, and if we look China as our common laboratory for all humankind, right? We are now in a paradigm shift, and we are welcome a new civilization. If we said that the old civilization paradigm really, have some problem, how we can? I think the biggest laboratory now around the world is China, right? And also the atmosphere here is very positive. China have at least 3 global announcement on global civilization governance, global initiative, global governance initiative. Like China really want to show the support for this kind of paradigm shift. So if we use the system shift and system thinking, and we look China as a laboratory. For example, now the Club of Rome is in Suzhou, and they invite me to join their conference, but I said because of this webinar, I have to join them later. But it seems that this kind of a think tank, they began to look at China, and they come here to visit, to learn, to talk with the people here, to try to understand this, this country, and not only the modern people, but they visit the village, talk with the local people there, try to understand the ancient wisdom. And I think that if more people from different countries can come, have a look, but not listen to the media, then it will be very, very helpful. I still remember because I visited Yale right after COVID. It's a 3-year block down. So at that moment, all the media talk about China just like a monster, a weird monster. It's only because, we lack of connection. Yeah. So I think if more people can come, like Peter, I know why you think China in a positive way, because you come several times and your teacher is here, and Mary as well. So if we can, in this way, we communicate, we exchange more, and I'm sure, and also use the systemic thinking, and we are on the same home, and as a human, we are together. And now we have the opportunity. China is opportunity. If you think China some did something wrong, please help us, correct us in a positive way. And I'm sure Chinese people are very, humble, and we are open to accept different kind of opinions. If it's useful for us, we will correct, and we will just, oh yes, let's do it together. So this is a point I want to share. And also, please, China now also try to, because we talk about carbon neutral goal, it's so huge. And it's a new goal for every country, for all countries, because it's a scientist. They predict that, if at that point we cannot control the temperature, then our species will feel some problems. So we just put through the goal there, and no countries have existing pathway at hand. And China are doing experiments, social experiments, the whole country, very quickly, because we really think, yes, let's do that. Otherwise, we may miss the opportunity. And so this is the point. I think every country should do their own experiment, but just say, oh yes, China is doing that way. Let's go. Let's follow China. No, that's not the right mindset. The right mindset. Oh yes, I can do my own. And this is also the point why Hazim and myself, we open the dialogue, ancient wisdom for modern challenge. It's not just say, oh, China, we have the ancient wisdom. CCTV's trailer is all about China because we just like try to show, yes, the ancient wisdom still alive, but actually all the countries have their own culture. If they can go back to their own culture, they can find, the value of their own culture, but not just follow the technical driven pathway. Technical, very important, AI, very important, but it's not enough, right? As Peter mentioned, it's stuck there. So how our ancient people, stay with the nature, and how we can we can dig out this kind of wisdom and try to make it sense to the modern challenge. And this is why we need more bridge. We need more bridges, and not only bridges from this point to that point. It's more bridges come together as a network, and thus more different sides can come together. And I think this is the meaning of this webinar of all of us. We are all bridge. Now we come together. I think we are showcase to the world. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. It's great, Binbin. Thank you.
Hazim?
Yeah, I would also like to make a short echo from a young person's angle. So I feel very inspired by what Peter and also Binbin again for what you have just shared. But from my own perspective, let's be real. We young people tend to get anxious facing these huge challenges you have mentioned: climate crisis, losing our culture, or feeling pressure to fix everything fast while still figuring out our own lives. But I think there are 3 points what I've learned from today's dialogue. So it's not about being fearless or having all the answers in a short period of time. So first point is stop chasing perfection, and small steps count. As because for example, my grandmother always says to me, embroidery isn't done in a day. Instead of panicking about solving big problems overnight, we just keep going. So, for example, connect one artisan to a designer, sharing out one story at a forum at one time. So, with step by step, we will make a difference. And secondly, turn that I'm not qualified feeling into curiosity. Because for my own, I've really witnessed a lot of young people who are really under a lot of pressure, no matter where they are from and no matter what stages they are at. Because I've totally felt like an imposter talking to experts, but Binbin always told me my anxiety just means I care. So we ask elders for help, team up with our mentors and supervisors, and lean on each other. And the third thing is comes to my mind is to hold on to our roots when things feel overwhelming. So for me, my experience is every time when I feel anxious, I will always go back to my village and sitting with grandmothers while they embroider, and this really make me make me remember the mountains and rivers are hosts, and we are all guests. Because our heritage isn't just history; it's our anchor. So
That's right.
again, for us young people, it's not about getting rid of anxiety. It's about using it in a proper way. And let's care and curiosity turn I can't into we can together. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
There's a kind of a phrase that's really been helpful for me the last few years. Something that was said to me by a teacher who's Tewa Indian. Tewa are an indigenous Indian tribe in the southwest, New Mexico, Arizona, northern part of western Mexico. And he said, as humans, we really have no choice but to become indigenous again.
Mhm.
Now, when he said that, I thought it was really interesting because I think my model of indigenous is kind of an ethnic historical one. You know, I'm not someone like he, whose people have lived in the same place for probably about 12 to 15,000 years. So if you define indigenous by people who have been in one place for 10,000 years, then none of us can do that. But I realized when he's saying that, he's saying something quite different. And I think you're illustrating it beautifully, Hashim, which is first, you have to be in a place. How many times tonight have you talked about going back to be with your grandmother, sitting on the porch? You have to be in a place. We tend to visit places. We aren't there in the place. When I hear you talk about your grandmother in the porch, I can see the mountains. I can feel the rivers. You're in that place. And that's where it starts, because until we're connected to land, his name is Gregory Cajete, Cajete. He's written some quite beautiful books. He wrote a book called Native Science. That's how I got to know him. That was about 25 years ago. He's also written a lot about synthesizing different indigenous traditions of learning. And he says they always come down to three things. All the different tribes he's ever studied, three elements. First is individuation, a deep commitment to the fact that on that screen are five faces and every one is absolutely unique. And that our life journey can be inspired, but it can't be modeled. It's always our unique path. And he actually says individuation in the Jungian sense, which has a lot of other implications, but it's this profound commitment to my uniqueness. But he said by itself, it'll always go out of balance without a commitment to community. So he said all tribes value individuation in concert with community. And he said community can only arise with individuation. Otherwise, you get vague, you get kind of superficial, everybody believing the same things, saying the same things, acting the same way. So he said the only way community arises is in the context of individuation. The only way individuation can work over the long term is in the context of community. And both of those have to arise in concert with land. Individuation, community, and land. He says all tribal systems of learning center around these three elements. So that's what it means to become indigenous again. You know, to be ourselves in the context of our community, but be here, wherever here is. Place is not just a geographic location, it's a living presence of Mother Earth right here, not in our heads, but in our bodies, and obviously in our hearts. So I just wanted you to know, Ashim, every time I hear you speaking, I can hear all three of those elements. And yes, we do have to become indigenous again. Then we can fall in love again with Mother Earth, and then we can actually start to define that moral and ethical compass that Mary Evelyn's talking about. It doesn't.
Yeah, I just want to build on that because John, my husband, of course, has studied with many indigenous peoples across North America, but in other parts of the world as well. And I've been blessed to accompany him in many, many rituals and things of that nature. And I want to just offer into this really important conversation, of course, tremendous gratitude, especially for Binbin and Hazim and your marvelous comments. And I'm offering something that's been a year and a half in the making, and that is this living Earth community. We call it a knowledge commons. And it's been done by the next generation of our students and so on who have really researched, and picking up on Peter's last point, the profound relationality that indigenous peoples have, but Asian traditions have, Confucianism, Buddhism, Taoism, they all have this tremendous sensibility of relationality. So the overwhelming evidence from scientists, from animal behavior people, that's just exploding around the planet, of the remarkable differentiated intelligences in which we dwell and have our being. We like to call it differentiated sentience, forms of knowing and being. And Gary Snyder and Greg Cajete, these are people who've thought about this for a long, long time. And that's led to ecological worldviews, which are different from religions and opens the gates, I think, to next generation youth who are very keen on animism and religious naturalism and things like that. And then again, I'm underscoring that if these are conscious ecosystems, if these in certain forms, we don't have the language for it, then there's personhood here. Then there are rivers that need to be protected. And the rights of rivers, the first one in New Zealand is the rights of all of nature is what's bubbling up in all kinds of ways. And I think this is one of the very promising, all of these are promising signs in rather bleak times, shall we say. So I just wanted to offer this living earth community, which the stunning pictures, etc. And this is all done by the next generation as an offering into this space. Binbin, you might want to say something as well in this.
Yes, first of all, I really love the website you just announced. And I share the website with all my friends. And I think this is step by step, we can help more people to realize what we are talking about, what is paradigm shift from this kind of small steps. And also just now when you introduced the website, I suddenly recall the sounder you mentioned. This is my destiny. And because why it's so important to me when I met you in Yale? Because I went to Yale, I think, wow, Yale is a top university, a lot of wisdom people there. And I from China, I can learn a lot from you. But you helped me to understand. And because you mentioned, hey, the answer is in your root. Is 天人合一, is like nature and human are the one. And you have the root in your culture. So you change my mindset. As just now Peter mentioned to Hazim, we used to find answers from other place. But actually the answer is in our place, in our heart. So this is the point. This is maybe why you gave me the thunder, and just now Peter also gave all of us the thunder here as a present moment. And I remember Meng Tai mentioned, I'm arrived, I'm at home. So it's so important for everyone to realize. And also for that thunder, why so important? Even now China, because we talk about eco-civilization, even China now are working on eco-civilization, but actually we don't know how. We are exploring, as I mentioned, we are doing social experiments. This is why it's so important. Peter, please come back to China. Mary, please come back again. Because in Chinese, we have a sentence, old saying is 当局者迷，旁观者清, which means that I'm in the place, but I'm confused. And you are an observer from outside. You know more clearly, maybe, or give me a fresh perspective, right? And this is also why I'm so happy that the Club of Rome, this time, the conference here in Suzhou, is also talk about eco-civilization. If we say I'm not here to promote, eco-civilization is so good, so beautiful, because I also don't know how. But at least we are talking about a paradigm shift, civilization-based solution, back to your own culture, to your own root. Then how? We can look eco-civilization as a China kiss, as a Chinese kiss, and we can work on it. If we can work it out, it may make sense to other, countries, to other, indigenous group, to find this kind of confidence to contribute to the modern society with the modern science, with the technology people, with the engineering people. And last point is, you mentioned the website, Living Earth Community. And here in China, when I back to Peking University, I set up the lab, Climate Future Global Innovation Lab. The short name is C-Force. So I'm a fan of Star Wars. And in that movie, Force is, may the Force be with you. So C-Force, C is not only climate change. C is curiosity. C is courage, right? And C is also like see your own force. And also C is connection. C is coherence. So my last call is, let's come together, see your own force, and see our common force.
Thank you. I love it. I love it. And thank you. I appreciate you naming the thunder and also bringing Thich Nhat Hanh's voice into the conversation. It's beautiful. We do have to wrap up very soon. So I want to just answer one of the questions that was posed by our wonderful group of participants who are online with us tonight and this morning. John writes in, how does everyone on the panel react to individual, community, and land as teacher? So the idea of earth as teacher. And I would just add, what would it be like? What does it mean to go through life listening to earth as though earth is our greatest teacher, uttering words of wisdom? So maybe just a minute or so each on this sort of idea of earth as teacher, and then we'll begin to close.
I want to just say something, I hope quickly, because I'm so interested in what everyone else will say. But when Binbin was saying in response to Peter, how are we indigenous in place? And I really want to offer into our discussion, finally, we have tremendous respect for traditional environmental knowledge, which is fantastic, the most ancient knowledge on the planet, managing ecosystems, managing forests and trees and so on. But what John Grimm has just put before us, how is the earth teaching us, is present in every culture. It's present in the arts, in poetry, in music, etc. And why I'm so attracted to the traditions of Asia, where, a third of the world's peoples live and more, is because that profound connection with qi and with matter energy, that everything is filled with the life force, and to cultivate it in Tai Chi, Qigong, etc., is absolutely essential. And that's part of this ongoing sensibility of indigenous peoples, but in other cultures and traditions like Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. And I want to say, last night, we were at this dinner with two extraordinary biblical scholars. And one of them, they're teaching a course on the Bible with this sense of the liveness in the Psalms and in other parts of this text that is absolutely transformative and so important. Because one of them said, what he's going to be writing on is the re-enchantment of nature that is in these texts, because he agreed with me when I said the Western traditions are often cut off from the earth and have a dualism. He completely agreed. And I said, that's a minority in terms of world religions. The monotheistic traditions with a radical transcendence, God in the sky, is a minority. And his book and the work of these two biblical scholars is so important to restore this sense of we belong to the earth. Earth is our teacher, and there's an immanent life force present there. So I just wanted to offer that into this discussion. Hazim, I don't know if you want to say anything, and I'm sure Peter will jump in too.
Sure. Thank you. So again, for me as a young person, I think it's about bridging the knowing and doing, and not being afraid to innovate. Because as we grew up in a new era, while we're also like growing up, hearing to protect the planet, but it feels abstract until we get our hands dirty. So for us, that means things like using the social media to share our village ecosystem, eco wisdom, for example, and to collaborate with designers to turn the traditional crafts into the sustainable fashion, or even challenging the old norms, like saying, why not try this greener way? So for everybody who live in the community, they don't all have to be experts, but they all need to be curious learners, because Earth teaches us resilience. So we adapt. If one idea doesn't work, we tweak it together. And so in short, I would say, like, together, just be together. We listen to Earth learn from it, and act on it, and we will definitely make a difference in the future. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Peter, it's your turn, I think, if you want.
I was waiting see if Binbin wanted to add anything to how is Earth teaching us.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So when we talk about Earth, it's a big, and in someone's mind is like, in some people's mind is like, oh, Earth, like is a objective. But Earth is animals, is plants. Earth is nature, and it's everything around us. So this is we should shift the value from resource management to like rational network, and we should rethink like how we treat with the nature around us. Actually, why we have the plan, we learn from animals. How we can adapt to climate change. The latest technology is that we learn from the ant in Africa, because they can adapt to the high heat there. So this kind of latest technology, we learn from nature as always. So if we think from this way, Earth, of course, is our teacher.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, when I think about a question like that one, I mean, it really just brings me to one point, which is humility. I would say if there's something we're obviously really lacking, it's our sense of place. You know, I was talking with someone not too long ago who had one of his areas especially is youth vision quests. And he said he's been with many, many young people after they come out of a vision quest. You know, typically they're 14, 15, 16 years old. He said they learned the same three things. I'm not such a big deal. I think that's the humility. I'm not such a big deal. The universe is profoundly beautiful, and there's a place for me. See, that's humility. This word civilization, I can't end without. A story that's been going through my head again and again. I have no idea. I think this is true because I've heard the story on a few occasions. Gandhi, on one of his many visits to London, is asked by an English journalist, "Mr. Gandhi, what do you think of Western civilization?" And his response is, "It would be a very good idea." I think our arrogance is our first big hurdle. When we recognize that we don't know, that what we call civilization is just a story and it hasn't really worked out very well for an awful lot of folks. It's not working out for more and more folks now. We just start to come to a point where we're going, well, we really don't know. It's that simple. And then a lot will open up.
Wonderful. Thank you. Such a good session tonight. Mary Evelyn, Peter, Binbin, Hazim, thank you so much for joining us and for a great conversation. A true intergenerational handshake. And also, I would like to shake my heart with you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you again to the Garrison Institute and to the Yale Forum on Religion and Ecology for co-sponsoring this session. Thank you all for joining us today. And just a quick reminder, all of these online forums are offered free of charge. So if you would like to support this sort of programming and the work of everyone on this call, please consider going to the Garrison Institute website and clicking the donate button to make a contribution. We hope that you can join us again soon. And thanks once again. Bye for now.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.